Okay, just got back from seeing Blue Lock episode Nagi in theaters. And you know that Arrested Development clip where it's like, I don't know what I was expecting? Pretty much that. Also, I apologize if there's a bunch of background noise. It's close to 4th of July now, so everyone's blowing off fireworks. Anyway, two things before I dive into the actual review. One, there are two after credit scenes. One of them is that like Blue Lock after time thing that they did during the TV series, so might not need to stay for that one because it kind of sucked. But there is an after credit scene for this film. And two, normally I try to avoid spoilers for my like movie reviews and stuff, but there's really nothing to spoil here because it basically just covers the entirety of the season 1 of the anime, which you kind of have to see in order to watch this movie, because if you have not seen the TV series, this movie's not going to make any fucking sense to you. It's simply not. It is not designed to make sense to a new audience. You have to see the series before watching this film. So, with that in mind, I don't know. I'm just kind of... I don't know what I was expecting, really. It is season 1 of the TV series, but from Nagi's perspective. And we get, like, a little bit of lead up to the Blue Lock story. Like, we get maybe, like, 15 to 20 minutes. That's generous. 15-ish minutes of, like, preamble to establish the relationship between Nagi and Reo. And it's fine. It's kind of bad looking. It's not the best looking until we really get into like the Blue Lock stuff. So that's disappointing. You're not gonna get, again, I keep expecting anime movies to be movie quality, and they just simply are not, especially when they're based on TV shows. But this one especially is not. It is real hit and miss when it comes to animation quality. Sometimes it never gets higher than the highs of the TV series, which admittedly are pretty good highs. But it also reaches some of the lows of the TV series, which are pretty low lows at certain points. So if you're expecting any kind of animation upgrade, you're not going to find it here. If you're expecting any kind of story upgrade, you're not going to find it here. In fact, I would almost kind of call this a downgrade in certain aspects. Like, now, I like the TV series. Think you can go back to my winter 2023 seasonal wrap-up show series, and one of those episodes I cover Blue Lock, and I give it... I remember absolutely nothing about what I said during that, so if I contradict anything here, it's because I don't remember. It's been almost a year, I think, since I watched the first season. So, we'll see. Anyway, but episode Nagi really doesn't have any of the things that make Blue Lock good. It really narrows down on its focus of like how much of what characters get focus. So it's basically just Nagi, Reo, a little bit of Zatetsu, I think, who's this really fucking annoying guy from the... He's the guy with like the goggles or whatever from Team V that's with them. And then like we get a little bit of focus, just a little bit of stuff from like some of the main characters from the TV series, like not Isami or Isagi and Bachira in a little bit. But what made the TV series fun was how all of these characters kind of bounced off each other, and that was how the cast sort of grew into like this big ensemble performance that made them really fun to watch as a group. Blue Lock is not a character study kind of story, and that's what episode Nagi tries to be, to a certain extent. It tries to show, like, this in-depth characterization of Nagi going from soccer is like a hassle and a pain because I have to move around a lot and I just want to go home and play video games, to soccer is really fun and I want to get really fucking good at soccer. And it does that on paper. It's just not super interesting or super exciting to follow that. Now, I'm going to make a comparison that's very unfair. I acknowledge it's very unfair. But because there are so many very obvious parallels, I cannot help but compare it to the movie that I saw a month ago, Haikyuu the Dumpster Battle, because Nagi and Kenma are very similar characters. They're both sort of like characters that like their solitude and just like being by themselves. They don't like exerting themselves very much. They kind of just want to stay inside and play video games, but through the actions of another character, they get involved with a sport and start to love that sport the more that they get involved with it. If you've seen Haikyuu, I shouldn't have to explain to you why this is a very unfair comparison. Nevertheless, this is basically Kirkland brand Kenma, because it doesn't have the depth that Kenma had. He doesn't have the depth that Kenma has. He doesn't have the immensely strong cast supporting him that Kenma does. Like, Reo is not Kuro by any stretch of the imagination, and they're really not even trying to be the same character. Reo is much more of like a springboard for Nagi, whereas Kuro is a support for Kenma. So that is an interesting differentiation, but it doesn't make him a more interesting character. Weirdly enough, this movie actually makes Nagi and Reo's relationship less interesting than the TV series. Like, it really does not do anything interesting with them. It does, like, there's a little bit of camaraderie. Like, yes, I understand that they are friends, and they talk about how they are friends, and they do get along, but I think a lot of it is just from the cinematic side and the editing side, in terms of like macro level editing, in terms of like what this movie chooses to focus on, because they devote a very large chunk of time to the match, to the Team V versus Team Z match in the first core of the TV series. Like, that is a large chunk of this film. So much to the point that I thought the film was going to end when that match ended, or like shortly after that match ended. And then they just sort of rush to the end of the first season. Like, they cram everything after that into like 10 or 15 minutes. And that it felt like an afterthought. But getting back to what I was saying before, there's not, they don't add anything to Reo and Nagi's relationship to make it like more meaningful than it is in the TV series. You're just getting more of the same thing without adding any nuance to it. So it just comes off as bland. Honestly, I thought it was going to be like a little more positive towards this movie, but the more I talk about it and the more I think about it, the more it just feels like a waste of time. Like, yeah, it's got some cool moments in it that aren't in the TV series, so if you just want more cool animated Blue Lock moments, yeah, they're gonna be there, but they're not like any better than the stuff in the TV series. Like, the only thing I can say that really stood out to me with this as opposed to the TV series is like some of the like imagery for Nagi. They really lean into like this flaming phantom kind of skull imagery as like his aura that he emits. So that was pretty cool. But I'm struggling to think of a notable amount of this movie that made it worthy of being a movie, that made this worthy of being a 90-minute film, as opposed to like, I don't know, a 50-minute OVA. Because they could have done that. There's not a lot of substantial material in this movie. They could have done this as an OVA. And I'm just questioning why. So, like, if you are a massive Blue Lock fan and you really like Nagi, sure, this movie is for you. But if you're just kind of like, yeah, he's really cool, and this show is pretty cool, it's not like in my upper echelon of stuff, but it's pretty cool, I don't think you're going to get a lot out of this movie. I really don't. Man, I thought I was going to give this at least like a pretty okay-ish score, but I'm feeling like a light to decent 6 at most for this one. Like, it's fine. It's not bad or mediocre to any... Well, there are a lot of mediocre chunks to it, but I'm struggling to find a reason for it to exist outside of the TV series, because there is no way that it can exist without the TV series. So I don't know what I was expecting. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Blue Lock episode Nagi. I have no clue what anime film is coming next to the States. It might be The Concierge, but Crunchyroll hasn't put out a date for that yet. In the meantime, we'll probably get the final episode of the Winter 2024 seasonal wrap-up show a few days after this goes up. So look forward to that. My name is Ember, and I'll see you next time.